Welcome to Working the Web to Win. Today's show, I have just one simple question to ask all of you, and that's this. Are you ready to face the music? If you're into the music scene, then you know the industry has had its share of ups and downs in the past few years. In fact, since the advent of the internet, the music industry has never been quite the same. This has included literally a tidal wave of legal actions brought about by everyone from record labels to recording artists who are all trying to get their fair share of this worldwide pie. During today's show, we're going to talk about the sea change that's taken place by the birth of digital music distribution, and also how it's altered the power structure in the music industry forevermore. Our guests today include Tyra and Chad Dant of the blues band TOOTS, LORRAINE, and the Traffic, who have just released their latest CD called Make It Easy. But before our sponsors start singing the blues, I'm going to let Hector introduce them to you along with our call-in number. Take it away, Hector.
Okay, well, I want to thank our guests today, but I want to tell our guests out in cyber world the phone number. It's 213-943-3808. That's 213-943-3808. Of course, you can also go to workingthewebtowin.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, and of course now, live on YouTube. Or not live, but on YouTube.
Almost live.
Almost live on YouTube. And also, before we get deep into the show, I just wanted to say a couple other things real quick. The blog has hit a new milestone with 38,000 views. Mm-hmm. And also the radio show is now at 127,000 views, and probably by the end of this show, it'll be at 128,000 views. So
cue the applause.
Yeah.
I also want to thank our hosts, or rather our sponsors, MedMasters and also Tub King.
At MedMasters, the best online community for the medical industry, and of course Tub King, the purveyor of the most beautiful bathtubs in the world, and of course those therapeutic walk-in tubs.
Getting back to the music industry, if you'll remember, what was it? A couple of weeks ago, the Beatles just celebrated the 50th anniversary of the start of the British invasion.
Right.
But you know, with all the things that have happened during the last 5 years, it almost makes the 45 before that almost blur in comparison. Because lately, I think that what I called my blog was, I kind of wanted to theme it lawyers, guns, and money. Because if you'll notice, during the past few years, everybody that's anybody in the business has been shooting at somebody. There have been lawsuits flying left, flying right. The music industry, the record labels, artists have been trying to get their piece of the pie, mainly because of the fact that since the digital age has come in and the distribution is now taking place online, it's kind of hard to track that, or at least that's what the record labels want everybody to believe.
Well, on top of that, you have the issue where, you know, the artists now are getting some control and actually going back and creating audits to find out what's happening, what's not happening, and a lot of them have found that they've been gypped out of, you know, not a few dollars, but millions of dollars. And also, you know, the issues of the artists now getting control of their release of their products and so on, and that has changed the whole dynamic. And then last year, I remember we did the show on the copyright laws changing. So all these dynamics are happening all at once, and I guess the recording studios, a lot of their copyrights are running out. So the music control is being handed back to a lot of the recording artists also. So a lot of these songs that were done in the 60s, 70s, and 80s are now reverting back to the artists. So that all those dynamics are making a huge change.
Yeah, and I think the biggest change now is the fact that a lot of artists are just skipping the record labels altogether and going direct. They're either putting them on iTunes, or a lot of them are going viral on YouTube. And in fact, I'd like to introduce TOOTS, LORRAINE, and we have Chad and Tyra on with us today. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Awesome.
How has the internet affected the way that particularly your brand of music, which is blues, is actually being distributed today? Because I notice you do have your latest CD here, which I have a copy of in my hot little hands. I've already listened to it. Some really good tunes in there. But how do you actually getting the distribution out? How is the internet affecting your ability to, you know, make money as a musician?
Well, the internet's greatest attribute is communication, and it literally means worldwide communication. So therefore, all the barriers have been taken down. You can essentially put your music in anyone's hand at any time. A lot of traffic involved, but the idea is that everything is an open field, and once you pay, that single ticket, you're in, and you just got to sift through all the people and, keep plugging along, and eventually, your music is going to reach those people. There's a lot of marketing and a lot of avenues to take to help with exposure. But otherwise, the internet is putting music in people's hands that they never ever would have heard of 20 years ago.
Quite literally. In fact, that's how I ended up getting my copy of your latest CD. Is I got a little email notification, and right now I'm actually have one of your little music videos queued up here on my monitor, which the people at home will be able to see when we actually produce our own YouTube show. But what's interesting today is the fact that I know that you guys play a lot of clubs, but this breaks you out of the club scene. I mean, I've noticed that you've got quite a few videos on your channel. Are you producing these things on a regular basis, or is it just catch as catch can when you put out a YouTube version of your songs?
We actually use those videos to get more work.
Okay.
We have our website, of course we're linked in with all the social media, but in terms of booking jobs, people want to see the show.
There you go.
So we direct them to our website, and the links to the videos are there, and that's how we get work.
Yeah, and also if you want to buy a copy of their latest CD, you can find that on TOOTSLORRAINE.com.
Yep.
So that's what's great about it, that you can actually buy and sell music today online without ever having to go through the major record labels. Because particularly when you're looking at blues, I mean, have you ever been approached by record producers or any of the major distribution companies? Or are you pretty much doing it as on a DIY basis at this point?
Yeah, DIY so far. I mean, we've been approached by a lot of people who essentially were about this measured up to Big Bird on Sesame Street, and
You had to see her look on Toots' face when she said that.
But it's a positive because, sorry to interrupt, it's a positive because we've learned to sit through FABS, I guess, runs Google, so.
Yeah, that's okay.
You can tell who's BSing you and who's not, because so many people have approached us.
It still does really come down to an artist's initiative. I mean, you still have to chase down the labels, you still have to chase down booking agents, and you've got to do a lot of legwork, just like you used to back in the day, but some of the legwork now can be done at your desk in the morning, without your suit and tie on, drinking your coffee. So that's a plus. But then at the same time, there is something to be said for people wanting to actually know what you do from both a visual and an audible standpoint, whether it is online via YouTube or going to a club multiple nights of the week to just sort of show your face.
Well, tell us a little about how you just produced your latest CD. I mean, what does it take to produce one of these things today? Where did you produce yours?
Money. And money, good musician, a solid studio, an excellent producer.
And it takes effort. You have to keep trying, no matter what hurdles, you got to keep jumping over them. No matter how many times, something goes wrong and you kind of get thrown down, you got to get back up and keep going. And you essentially got to drag everything along until it happens.
Right. Well, one of the good parts about being your own producer and your own distributor is you don't have to worry about somebody ripping you off.
You don't have to worry about sharing large portions of the profits either. And other than you got to give Uncle Sam's piece.
We just had our iTunes release come out today, and Apple takes quite a bit for selling in their market, because their market is the premier market for digital distribution. So all those people who are looking to get their money's worth, they're also aware of working the web to win.
Well, let me ask you this. Since you're on iTunes, have you also looked at being on Google Play or Walmart's store or Amazon's new audio store? All these players, the competition is heating up, and what I see that doing is it driving the price down that they take from you, the piece that they have to take from you. And there are also ways of doing this distribution online without giving them anything. As a matter of fact, at least 10 years ago, I built my first website that had complete fulfillment for an audio artist, that they wanted to have their own place where people could buy the music directly from them. So,
well, you know, even speaking of that, even Steve Jobs with iTunes,
right.
They didn't develop that.
Right, no, they bought it from somebody else.
They actually bought a platform and then modified it to their uses because they didn't want to waste the, you know, the year or 2 years it would take to develop the platform from scratch. But since then, it's gone on to really, literally change the industry.
Well, what's really neat about this whole industry is some of it, I want to say it sort of happened by accident, but it's really not by accident. When the German guy came up with the compression software, their original model was to make it so that they would have this high-tech piece on the back end, and they would give you a little low-tech piece on the front end, and what you could do is you could down on it, but without theirs, you couldn't really play the music.
Right.
Well, some guy went in there and bought their high piece end and put it live on a university website, and that got out, and before you knew it, the cat was out of the bag, and MP3 was wildly live all over the world. And that changed the whole model.
And of course, there was a little thing called Napster that kind of came along and primed the pumps, because that was one of the first peer-to-peer audio exchange services. The only problem was the audios they were exchanging weren't paying rights to anybody. So that kind of started off the big litigation balloon that happened, and all of a sudden, you know, the Napster got sued. Napster actually changed hands 3 or 4 times, which is kind of funny because people thought it just went away, but it didn't, because they had such a huge following and so many users on there that it actually passed hands like 3 or 4 times. I think the last one that got their hands on it was, who got it last?
It was Spotify's.
Well, it went through Best Buy. All right, they picked it up for like $121 million, and then they ended up selling it. So it's, as a matter of fact, I guess they're not the royalties. They're
subscribers. They got 400,000.
But also their property, their intellectual property, is still being used to this day. It's just the Napster name went away because, you know, everybody freaked out at first. They had all those big lawsuits going on, and that kind of started that big stampede of litigation by first the recording studios, you know, the record labels, and then by the recording artists, which are still going on to this day.
It actually started, that whole Napster event started the digital, you know, the DRM movement, where they were trying to protect themselves from the intellectual property rights and so on. But, you know, one of the neat things that's happened that's sort of come out of MP3 is the internet radio phenomenon. Okay, the internet radio phenomenon, which we're on right now, which is the Blog Talk Radio platform, but probably the 2 or 3 of them that people know most of: iHeart, Pandora, Spotify. There's like 16 or 17. I found a whole bunch of articles. Spotify is always listed in the top 3 or 4. iHeart is up there also. And I'm talking about the free ones. Then there's lots of really good paid ones, Rhapsody and so on. And actually, I think Rhapsody is the ones who ended up buying Napster.
Chad, Tyra, are any of your songs being carried on any of the online radio stations right now? You get any play?
Not yet. The only one that we were really interested in at the time of our first release was Pandora, because it was the most popular.
Sure.
There's quite a bit more now, prior to the release of this second record, it was harder to get your material onto some company like Pandora.
Right.
You had so they were very concerned about filtering out certain types of music. But now things have changed. Pandora actually just recently lifted their mailing in procedures, and what you do now is you upload digitally to their website song by song. They review it, and then it goes in for streaming. So
yeah, you're allowed one song at a time, and if it gets any play or if they approve it, then they'll allow you to upload the second and the third.
That's the next step in the process. Is stepping out to those individual people. And right now, the distributor that we went with that works with the duplication company is called cdbaby.com, and it's heavy DIY users. And what they do is they have a package that you purchase, which is a distribution bundle, and they'll get you hooked up with all of the some of the top name digital distributors, iTunes, Google Play, CD Baby has its own, and Spotify. And then you just kind of have to go through each individual digital partner and, you know, jump through the hoops to get your music there. And it's, you know, we're just sort of coming, you know, day by day with this process and, you know, taking things as it comes now, doing what we need to do.
Well, you know, radio play has always been a major driver to, you know, put people on the charts, but put musicians into the public's eye. So today what's nice is it's no longer controlled by just a few entities.
Right. There's actually, if I look at my list of the top streaming music companies, there's 16 of them. The one I would tell you to look at is called Groove Shark. You can actually go in there and create your own, you know, list pretty easily, but I would bet you that you could upload your song to them a lot easier than some of these other ones. And there's a whole bunch of other ones that maybe some of the people haven't heard. There's Slacker Radio, which is pretty popular. There's one called RDO. There's Last FM. There's Live 365, AOL Radio, Django. Sony has one out there. I mean, there's really a bunch of them out there. And because of this competition, you should be able to get some inroads much easier than just having to try and deal with Apple and iTunes, which they're sort of the monopoly. They're trying to be the monopoly of that industry right now.
Our first record is actually on Last FM. You have a profile on there.
Okay.
It was real popular for a second, so we placed our music on there a few years back, and then it slowly started to lose popularity, so, you know, we haven't really updated that in a while.
Yeah. There's also some other podcast type venues like Sneakers and Speaker and those kinds of guys where you can go out there and create your own channel and put the stuff out there, and then it's just a matter of how you market it, whether you're doing email blasts to people or that kind of thing like this.
Yeah, and tell our audience a little bit about how you are going about, you know, marketing your CD. I mean, I noticed that obviously I've got got this for your mailing list, but I mean, you also working the social nets. What are you doing to promote TOOTS LORRAINE today?
Well, I will speak on some of the technical sides of it, and then I'll let Tyra speak on the social sides, because that's kind of her bag. But we are essentially a local band turned regional, and we're sort of skating the outskirts of some of the more bigger blues acts. We've got a great band here in Jacksonville, and it wouldn't take much for us to really blossom and find a lot of really great gigs. So right now we're starting to learn about how the quote-unquote big boys of the blues industry do it. Mm-hmm. And you know, we have some contacts, and we're sort of figuring out the standards, you know, and actually the internet is playing a huge standard, because as you're mentioning all these internet radios and digital distributors and everything, those are now standard. So when you release an album as a quote-unquote, you know, we'll say national act, you've got to have all this stuff already done, you know. Yeah. So, and a lot of it is do-it-yourself until you're on a label, and then you have to follow some of their procedures and their rules and do things how they see fit. So right now, the record is new. We're getting in a lot of information, and we're going to sort of plot out the next 3 to 6 months as to how we're going to market the album, market our bands, and send it to multiple agencies or publicists or labels and things like that, to sort of try and take that next step and learn what it is.
Speaking of great players too, Chad, I understand you have an awesome keyboard player.
We do.
Yeah.
Happens to be our producer over here, Nashville Dave Frank.
Yeah, the guy who never gets in front of the camera.
No, not never. We had him with the antlers on around Christmas, right?
The guy behind the camera is their keyboard player. And I know Nash played in Nashville for many, many years. So.
Ask him if we have a gig coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Nash wants to know if you have a gig coming up.
We're going to check our calendar on our website.
There you go. That's when I usually get notified about 3 hours beforehand. Hey, Carl, tonight we're going to be playing a Remojo. It's like, oop, okay.
We'll try to tell him earlier. So,
yeah, I tell you as I know.
You know, now, I mean, I understand that, of course, everybody has the, you know, wants to be a star in the music business, but It's a process. It take, you know, people that are overnight sensations, it takes them years and years and years to make the grade. So what do you two do when you're not, you know, up there in front of the lights? What do you do to make ends meet?
What it's like being up in front of the lights. We practice standing and posing and smiling, giving, you know, cool gestures. And
I practice my my speeches when I'm ramming sound as well.
Yeah, but I understand, Chad, you're also a pretty good graphic artist. So you do have another side to keep the lights burning at home while you're trying to get the lights burning on the stage, right?
We both have other jobs that we do to pay the bills. We're also parents, so we have to take care of our daughter. But we listen to a lot of music, and I have to listen to a lot of music because Chad knows the blues a lot better than I do. So I have to do my research and practice when we can. And back to your question about promotion, I do a lot of social media and keep connected with our fans locally and abroad. We've even sold CDs in countries that I've never been to before. Okay. And I think a lot of that has to do with just that's the internet, and also bigger cities that we play in have more tourist traffic, and so we certainly are getting our name spread out that way as well.
I know. Well, tell us why the blues. Why did you pick that venue of music?
The blues is the hardest to play. It's the simplest musical form that is the hardest to express. And that's, I was attracted to that in my freshman year of college, and I'm a pretty simple-minded fellow, and if anyone were to sort of look at my actual visual artwork and then listen to kind of the blues, they might think, oh wow, that's just kind of being you, you know. It's just kind of a calling. It's what I understand the best. It's what appeals to me the most. It's not the only musical form I listen to or play, but it's what I enjoy the most. It's really, you know, it's kind of a hard question to answer, you know, really.
I think it's because it's the best music. It's based on American roots music, and it is classic, and it crosses all boundaries, all socioeconomic status.
Countries.
And if you have a heart and if you have a soul, this music will move you.
Well, I know that the whole mechanism of change that's happened is not just from MP3. The internet is a big player in this game that we're talking about. And the whole movement of control is what we're really talking about. When you look at the big picture, we're moving away from big corporations controlling a lot of this stuff to individuals having a tremendous amount of control, from the individual who just wants to hear the music on their MP3 player without having to listen to commercials or all that kind of stuff.
Or on YouTube.
Or on YouTube, or put them in your car where you now just plug them in, or where it's built into your car and so on, to the artist having control, where before the companies had all the control. The prices have plummeted on a lot of these things. Used to be you had to buy an album, now you can buy a song, you know, that kind of thing. And because there's more competition, that's also driven price down. The laws are finally starting to change in the favor individuals versus the big companies. Because it used to be you couldn't even back up your song. If you had a copy of your song, they would say buy another one. You know, you want to back up, buy 2 of them, and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, and for a while there, particularly the record producers were going crazy with lawsuits.
Right.
I mean, what was it, in 2012, a federal judge literally instated $222,000 in damages against a Minnesota housewife who had illegally downloaded 24 songs.
Yeah, and they appealed it several times and they lost on those appeals, but all those kinds of things were crazy. And the new laws that we talked about in our show, where the copyright changes are making a big difference. But again, this whole movement, it's not just about music. Books have been in this turmoil for a while. Videos is the next arena where the big movie studios will start to lose some of their control. And you'll see that now, where a lot of the guys are going direct to the client, where like Epic Movies, where you can go in, instead of going by it, you go just watch it on the internet. So that whole movement of individual control is really worldwide. So I see our producers is telling here, we want to ask a question about your website, Toots. Tell us about it. What's the website address?
It's TootsLorraine.com.
TOOTSLORRAINE.com.
Okay.
TOOTSLORRAINE.com.
Toots. That's Toots.
Toots. That's with my English. That's when I was English. See that?
See, I sometimes when he reads.
And we also have the Worldwide Weird that's coming up here real quick. So I know we want to get to that before the show is over.
Well, and actually today on Worldwide Weird, we're going to kind of continue the artsy groove, because one of the things that I found, which I thought was really interesting, was there's an artist in the Netherlands. His name is Theo Jansen, and literally he creates almost living sculptures. These are sculptures that move. In fact, I have a little video here I'm going to cue up for the people at home. But I mean, these are one of these things that if you saw this thing coming at you down the beach, I think you'd start running.
I know, they look like dinosaurs or like prehistoric mastodons or something, but they're really cool looking.
And they're all powered by air. I mean, they're wind driven, you know, so when the wind comes up, they walk, they move, their heads bob up and down.
It's an amazing stuff. So for those of you who watch the show on YouTube, you'll be able to see some really cool things. And again, they can look that up. I know we have about 4 minutes left. We want to also make sure we go in and thank our sponsors. Again, we want to talk about MedMaster, and that the very first and the best social community for the medical industry. And again, you can go there, you can get a job, you can connect with other people, you can explore your opportunities.
And the best thing is you can join for free.
And it's absolutely free to join. And of course, you know, Tub King, their walk-in tubs have all these cool therapeutic things that you can do to really, I mean, it cures what ails you. And then again, if you want to have one of the most beautiful bathrooms in the house, those clawfoot tubs that are used in all the movies. They're
even their walk-in tubs. Like I said, it's not really a tub; it's an in-house spa.
It's like a spa, right? So we want to make sure we thank them, because again, we wouldn't be able to be on the air if they weren't doing that.
And speaking of the next wave, what does Toots Lorraine have in store? You know, in the near future, where do you go next?
Well, are you talking about our next show?
Your next show, or where the next evolution of your part of the music industry is going to take you? Where are you aiming for next? How do you keep raising the bar?
Well, we'd like to. I want to have our name be not just local but regional, and I want to be up there with the other big dogs in the blues world. There's not that many youngish blues artists, and so I think there's a spot for it.
So you're saying that
we have to step into it.
So you're saying when I walk into like Starbucks, you want to be able to have us just pick up your album right there, right?
My goal is to not ever have to set up a PA ever.
There you go.
There you go.
Gotta get those roadies in there. So you opening for anyone we'd know?
No, but we do have a CD release party coming this weekend in Jacksonville at the beach at Mojo Kitchen. And have we got to be pretty little?
The Blues Fest.
And the Blues Fest coming up, right?
Yes, we do. And the Blues Festival, we're going to be there April 6th. That's a Sunday. That's in Jack's Beach. And then on Saturday, there's a festival in St. Augustine that we're playing at as well, April 5th. So we have a lot of stuff coming, and if you'd like to know our full schedule, just check our website, TOOTSLORRAINE.com.
I'll do that.
And our producer says he will do that to make sure he's there. So.
Well, and I've been to many of the performances. I mean, it's you only get a small taste of what it's like by looking at their their YouTube channel. I mean, you really need to be there live. There's nothing like live blues. So we're about to our last minute of the show, and I want to thank both of you for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
And we'll have this on YouTube within probably about 24 to 48 hours. You'll be able to actually pick it up on Blog Talk when we're off the air.
And again, if you're really into music, you can go on to our blog, go to the notes page. There's about 50 links to different articles. You can get the history of everything you want, the iPod, the iPad, MP3, the whole music industry, and how all these things have come about. And it's really sort of a cool place to find a lot of other really cool things too. So keep looking for those Easter eggs that we're talking about. So
yeah, you never know what Nash is going to come up with when he does his little digital magic when we're off the air.
Yeah. So I guess that's about all we have for this week's show.
Just keep working the web to win.
That's the sign. It's time to split. Make it easy.
Yay, that's a wrap. Yay.
Make it easy.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
And now we're off the air. He's on. Yay! We're still on the air.
Now I gotta cut his stuff out. I'm gonna make you cut it out.
Hey, I thought you waited till the lady said 5 seconds.
No, because she'll actually because I did that one time too. I thought we were off the air and we weren't.